just enjoy it. You've trained yourself to death for this moment, so don't let it pass by, win or lose, just go and enjoy it. This is what you've trained for.
So welcome to the first episode, well it's the second episode of Brave Beginnings. Today I'm joined by Tommi McCormick. Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome.
So Tommi, this podcast is all about growing confidence through conversations.
Yep.
So can you introduce yourself to the audience and tell people about why I've invited you here today and what your story is, I guess?
Yeah, so I was in my, I would say, previous life, Muay Thai fighter, professional for around 18 years. I was 2 times European champion and Commonwealth champion. I'd also won British at several weights, British champion, and I was regional champion as well in the north of England.
Wow. And how did you get there? Like, what is that? How did it all start?
So it started, first I was just, a kid with a lot of energy.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I don't know where it's gone. I was just a kid with a lot of energy, and one of my dad's workmates just said, he was training at the Wicker Camp in Sheffield. He just said, oh, they have junior classes, take him down. So I was doing football and things like that, and went down, loved it. There were loads of kids there, just punching and kicking each other and running around and playing games. It was like a social club. Just loved it. And then after, I think about 2 or 3 months, my dad started to do the beginner classes. So we were there a lot of the time in the week. I'd train Tuesday, Thursday in about 5 till 6:30, and then he'd train in the beginners classes at night. So it was like something we both did together.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
And was it always the goal to get into it professionally, or is that something that kind of just happened along the way?
No, I was good at it. It was that, I think that was the simple case. I was very good at it, even from a junior.
Yeah, but I guess I'm wondering, a lot of people are good at things, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they take it to European champion.
No, I think it is as simple as I was just very good at it. And, I played football, played cricket at school, and got into some, team, like Sunday league teams at football. I used to love that as well, but just this was like my thing. I was really, I knew what I was doing. I loved the fight, the performance of the fight. It was just, well, it wasn't like a decision I made, like, oh, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. It was just, I did it.
You had a talent and it came from there.
Yeah, I'd been doing it since I was 5 years old. I was, British champion at 9 years old for junior class. I was going up and down the country, fighting pretty much every other weekend as a junior. It sounds pretty tough, but you have the body armor on and short rounds. I just love getting in there and booting people around. And
you called it a performance. Is that what it felt like when you were up there? Yeah,
that was my time to shine. So when you're fighting professionally, the training regimes are gruesome. Like you're training twice a day, every day, for 8 weeks or 10 weeks. Depending how long. Some people like 8 weeks, some people like 10 or 12, depending how much weight as well you've got and how much fitness you want to get back. 8-10 weeks of grueling training every day. 2 hours in the morning, 3 hours at night, 5-mile runs every other day, sparring, like heavy sparrings, and it.
And you were what, 8 years old?
No, not 8. I'm talking. I'm talking professionally.
So this is when you got older.
Yeah. So this is when I'm 18, 19.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. It was tough. It was tough. I was training every day as a kid, but it'd just be at nights. Like I'd train a couple of hours at nights. But when I was training, you'd get into just this. Right. I need to get through it. For the training camp, the end goal was the performance of the fight, fighting in front of hundreds of people, or sometimes 10 people, or thousands of people, and that's the prize for me. That's what I did it for.
Oh, there's a couple of things there. So I suppose the first thing I'm wondering is, how did you cultivate such strong discipline?
I think it's a mixture of things. At the gym I was at Wicker Camp in Sheffield, as I was coming through, even from being 6-7 years old, when I had my first fight at like just turning 7, there was always like world champions in the gym. So there was always people fighting for titles, and the fighters classes, as we call them, where all the people who do the training camps were just full with talented people who had that mindset of let's get it done. And
so you were surrounded by people who
Yeah,
were already doing it.
Look up to them, like you think, oh, I want to be that person. Oh. So I can always remember we had, when I was a junior, we had a big matted area where like the juniors would do the pad work and the sparring, and we had a ring, and that's where all the like proper fighters would go, and the ones that are fighting for the titles, the men. And like I can always just remember like watching them all the time. Like one day I want to be in the ring, like it's nothing, but for me it was a big thing.
Yeah.
So it was like looking up to them, like, I want to be like them. And then when you got that, you maybe fighting for a title, you're always looking at that next person who's above you. Maybe not in the same weight, but they're above you in terms of how many fights they've had and what prestige titles they're fighting for. So I want that opportunity now. It kind of just cultivated from that. There's always a really good work ethic in the gym. So you're just bouncing off people in the gym. And I'd probably say a second thing was, like, I didn't want to let people down. So like my trainer, like Trix Marsh and Mick Mullaney, had a lot of discipline. Like they said, it's never forced upon you to fight, but if you said I'm fighting, Mick's going to be down there every day putting his 100% into you, like coming up with training techniques, and tricks as well, coming up with training plans. So you need to turn up and do them. Like, and if for any reason you were like, I can't be asked today, you'd get a text message. It were Mick, Trix, my dad, and then a few lads at gym would be like, oh, what's up with you? What's up? And you just dread, like you didn't want to have that.
Disappoint.
Yeah, to disappoint. So that was another driving force for me.
So it's quite interesting what you're saying there. So one of the motivators is having a role model in the gym with you. I guess that implanted into you that it's possible. Because when I think about, like, obviously I do acting, I don't really have a Hollywood star near me. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes it feels a little bit more out of reach, which is obviously a limiting belief. But you're saying that you were training in gyms with people that were actually doing it, and that spurred you on.
Every day.
And they had that, you could copy that work ethic and copy their strategy and their tools for success.
Yeah, and some people had far better work ethics than I had. And if I could just take a little bit of that, I was happy with it. I had a lot of natural talent. I don't want to like blow my own trumpet or anything.
Blow your own trumpet. This is a confidence podcast.
I had a lot of natural talent all the way through my career. So like I wouldn't say I had to work the hardest to be as good as I was.
Do you think that made you lazy? Or lazier?
No. I always went into the fights. When I was at the Wicker Camp, I always went into the fights fully prepared, and if I won, it's because I'm good. And if I lost, it's because the other guy was just a little bit better or a bit more experienced.
And then the other thing you mentioned was this kind of responsibility to please others and to not let them down.
Yeah.
How much of a driving force do you think that can be for people who are wanting to achieve something? Like, do you think it's useful to use their family or the people they love as a motivating force to get them to where they want to be?
I think if it's part of the story, then yes. I think if you're using that a little bit to give you motivation. But if your whole purpose is that, oh, I don't want to let my dad down, or I don't want to let that's kind of, I guess, dangerous territory. Because if that goes, then what have you got? Like you've got nothing to use. What's the point after that? But it is good to have, like I was saying, I had two things. So I'd have that motivation from the guys at the gym training. And I guess at a point I got to be like best in the gym. So I got some people left the gym, and I was kind of like top dog, if you would say, at the gym. And then you're like, oh, where do I go from here? And yeah, that's a difficult challenge. If you lose that, so you have to then try and change your focus on, well, I'm best in the gym now. I want to be, I want that title. I want to fight this guy. And
yeah, that's such a good thing that you're bringing up there. Because I sometimes feel like we're always striving for that next thing.
Yeah.
And when you get to the top, or the top of your league, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, top of the gym, it means nothing to anyone. But
now you've not got those role models. You are the role model. So then what do you do?
Exactly. Yeah.
So how did you navigate that?
I because I'd been doing it for so long, I knew what I needed to do to get fit, to approach the fight in the right way. But things do change. So like when you're sparring, when you have someone who's you would perceive to be better, fitter, stronger, more experienced than you, you're always picking things up from them. Like when I, say 14, 15, just coming into like professional fighting, I'd spar with all the, the world champions, big guys, and I'd be crying every week, every day. Like they just bang me about boom, nosebleeds, and it sounds brutal, but that's the way you learn. So kind of when I got to the top, I was doing the same to the like the juniors or the people that are coming up.
So then how did you learn the new techniques? Because you said then you're like, I was fighting people who were bigger and stronger and they were teaching me the tricks of the trade, but now you're at the top. So how did you elevate yourself? How did you level up?
I wouldn't say I would. I think when it's easier when you're at 14, 15 to take bigger steps.
Yeah.
So it's just little tweaks, I think, that I was trying to do. And one thing so I left Wicker Camp, I had a little bit of a falling out with Mick, the main trainer, because like as you were saying, I got to the top and I didn't feel like I was getting tested as much. I was finding it difficult. I was just looking around for different ways that I could train, and like I found a strength and conditioning coach, and Mick didn't think I needed that. I was like, I do, and kind of had a falling out. So all forgiven now, but that's kind of why I left Wicker Camp. But yeah, mentally I was just looking for what I could do to get those little bits, and like even if it didn't help me, it just gave me that motivation to, be on the top of my game.
Yeah.
Like something a little bit different. And you do the same training pretty much 20, 25 years. You always want to just
refine it.
Yeah, just refine it and try different things just to keep it fresh. And I think, so once I got to that top level, it's difficult to get the refinement and the tweaks from that situation. So I went out looking for outside help, I guess. And Mick's very traditional, so you're his fighter. He trains you how he trains you, and I didn't go about it the right way. I kind of just sprung it upon him, and as I do, and
So you were resourceful. So it was about like what other approaches, what other things are there out there, that I can learn from. Who else can help me? Who else can tutor me, guide me, whatever it was. You talked before about, and this is the other point that I wanted to kind of discuss. You said it was all leading up to this prize that was the performance.
Yep.
How did you get ready for a performance?
In terms of the day, or?
Yeah, so in terms of, because you were a little bit cheeky, were you not?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I always say to people that, say, oh, I've got a fight coming up. I'm worried, I'm stressed, I'm anxious. Because you do. It's, at the end of the day, it's two people punching each other in the face.
In front of however many people.
Yeah. And the people it doesn't matter the people, because when you're in the ring, like in the early stages of your career, when you're in the ring, everything just goes onto your opponent. Like, first 20, I'd say 15 fights I had, like, the crowd were just irrelevant.
That's interesting. So you're so hyper-focused that you're not seeing anything else. And I'm picking up on that just because obviously as an acting coach, when you go into auditions and you're seeing people watching you, when you're going on stage or you're on a film set, I think a lot of the people that I work with get really self-conscious because they're focusing on what's around them, but you were so hyper-focused. So what do you think was responsible for creating such hyper-focus?
It's just everything. It's like the nerves, the adrenaline, and the fact that this other guy's going to try and punch you in the face.
I guess if you're not hyper-focused, you're going to get whacked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No one's punching an actor.
No. And I would, like, early stages, I would get really nervous. You sat in the changing room, because you get to the venue really early, maybe 4 or 5 hours before you fight, generally. And you just sat around waiting, going in, speaking to people, from your gym and speaking to other people, and it all builds up and builds up, and then you kind of stood behind the curtain or stood behind the stage, and then also you hear your music, you're like, right, oh, it's here now. Like you've been waiting 4 hours, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's here. Like, oh, and you get in the ring. And for me, like, other people might be different, but for me, it's just that tunnel vision. I could hear Mick, I could hear my dad, I could hear Trix. And it was just me and the other guy and the referee in the ring.
Wow, so you were actually able to block out everybody else but those 3 people and that person in the ring.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
But like, as I got more experienced, it just became it's another fight. I'm going to enjoy the experience. And then, like, I would interact with the crowd. I'd be fighting and, looking at the crowd, or, still in the zone. Still like there, but it'd be more of I'm going to enjoy this. Like, the nerves weren't as bad. Still have the adrenaline, but I was like, I'm going to enjoy this, and I'm going to try and make everyone else enjoy it.
Nice.
And that's what to bring it back to the point. When people ask me, like, when they're in the early stage and they're like, oh, what should I do? And I'm just like, just enjoy it. Just try and enjoy the moment. You've trained yourself to death for 10 weeks, 8 weeks for this moment. So don't let it pass by as a thing, like win or lose, just go and enjoy it. And this is what you've trained for. This is what you're doing it for.
The intention that you go into something changes everything, doesn't it? I remember when I was early on in my acting career, and every audition I used to get so nervous and it was so debilitating, because actors, we actually, we're needing to use our speech, and I just found that it was really affected, and my memory was being compromised, which for an actor is...
I can relate to that, doing your workshops, like putting myself in, like with Muay Thai, I've got that experience, I know what I'm doing. Put me in another theatre, doing a short scene in front of 5 people. So I'm like, ooh.
Tom's been coming to my actor workshop.
There's a plug for your workshop.
Thanks,
Power
babe.
workshops.
Tom is also my fiance. He's not mentioned that. So in terms of the nerves, though, so for an actor, I felt that it was really debilitating for me, and it wasn't until I remember when it happened, just before I went into one audition, I promised myself, because I had such a bad time. I was going in and I was winging it. I don't know how I was winging it. I was like you, naturally always very good. But so nervous in the audition, but still getting really good feedback, but not quite getting the job role. And I remember going into one audition and thinking, if I don't enjoy this, I'm quitting, because there is no point, because most of my time is spent applying for jobs or auditioning for jobs, not actually working.
Yep.
And ironically, whenever I was on set, I was fine. It was the audition process, and that changed everything. It changed up the way that I showed up in auditions, but I was also working on my mindset at the time. Do you think that your nerves got in the way of you when you were younger? And do you think that kind of new intention of enjoying the moment actually helped you, I suppose, win? more? Do you think it interfered with you, or do you think regardless of the nerves, you were always
No, I
on top
think
form?
nerves are very useful. Like they're
Useful for the fighting,
for the fighting, yeah. I think the nerves coupled with the adrenaline, I think, yeah, they get you to a state of you can fight. You know, like I say, when you're in the ring, there's no backing out. So, like, I think for me, nerves were important at the earlier stages to get through it. But later stages, yeah, it kind of becomes second nature. So
you could just enjoy it. So
yeah.
I'm presuming you enjoyed those performances a lot more than the earlier ones.
I mean, I never enjoyed losing. No. Yeah, never enjoyed that, but it's just part of the journey. And towards the end of my career, so I guess I decided to go to uni quite late on. So I think I was like 22. Decided to go to uni, and I was studying and still trying to balance fighting at the same time at a high level, and it didn't kind of work out right. I was still winning fights, but there's a point where I was just kind of like, it's a bit too much. I'm not enjoying it as much as I did. So I had a bit of time out while I was at uni. Come back again, start to enjoy it again. But then towards the tail end of my career, after I left Wicker Camp, my form was a bit in and out, and I probably didn't enjoy maybe the last 2 or 3 fights. Like I didn't care anymore, kind of thing.
You'd lost the passion.
Yeah.
And it affected the way you showed up.
Yeah. 100%.
So with the focus, you changed your focus into something else that you wanted. You lost the passion and obviously lost the enjoyment.
Yeah, I'd be training every day. Like at that point as well, I was moved to Manchester, but I was still training in Sheffield. So I was still working in Sheffield. So I'd be commuting 100 miles every day.
Wow.
I'd be training morning, training at night, working through that, and then driving home. So I'd leave the house at 6 in the morning, get home at 10 at night for 8 weeks, 10 weeks. So that in itself is like, oh God, like
exhausting. It wasn't.
But I'd still go there. I'd still turn up.
How important do you think it is that you make the structure of your day and the structure of whatever it is you're trying to achieve more enjoyable then? Because obviously you're saying that was very, very exhausting. So before, I imagine it was a little bit easier and that made it a little bit more enjoyable. What do you think in terms of weight that has on the end result?
Yeah, I think you look at the last part of my career, my form was very inconsistent. Like my mindset going into the fights was I'd already kind of switched off, relatively completely switched off, so I didn't care anymore. So that came out when I fought, like in my last fight. You see, I just weren't bothered. So yeah, once that enjoyment had gone, it was just kind of I'm just doing it because I'm good at it, and I wasn't bothered about entertaining anyone.
You just lost the will. You talked earlier about setbacks and not liking losing. So how did you bounce back after a lost fight when you did care? Not at the end, but when you did care.
I just have to try and get back in the gym. It's kind of like just brush it off and go again.
So you didn't hold on to it?
I'd never watch my fight back.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If I'd lost, I'd never watch it. If I won, I'd watch it 100 times. Honestly. It's probably not a good thing, but I'd make excuses. Like, I'd be like, if I was 100%, I would have won that fight. I had an injury, or training camp weren't as good as it was. But if it was, I'd have won that fight. No one can beat me.
You think, looking back in hindsight, you'd have cut the excuses and
yeah,
saw what the real problem was so that you could work on it.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting that you said that you would watch the times that you won over and over again. So it's kind of like you were planting that in your head that you're a winner.
Yep.
I'm constantly saying to myself over and over again, I'm constantly visualizing myself winning, not losing, which is great, I think.
Yeah.
Surely that must have some effects on a subconscious level. Do you think?
Yeah, and I do a lot of visualization before the fight.
Oh, really?
So I would always kind of picture myself smiling in the ring, having my hand lifted by the ref, or like looking over my opponent. I'd always kind of visualize that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And was that part of your training, or is that something that you just did automatically?
It's just something I did. Just never. I never knew what it was doing something positive. It was just like the way I got into the zone. It'd just be me, like visualizing me just like looking over my knocked out opponent, or the referee lifting my hand and like hearing the commentator go, and the winner is Tommi McCormick. They'd just be playing in my head.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thing? Did you have any other things that you did back then to get you into the zone, to get you into that state that you needed to be in to win the fight?
I had a playlist, so I'd have my headphones in and just have some like kind of indie music.
Indie music?
Yeah, but like, good.
I was thinking like Eye of the Tiger now.
No. Just music that I could relate to and I'd be like
pump you up.
Pump
So
me
you'd
up,
use
yeah.
music to
yeah
get yourself
But
there, visualization.
Like if you saw me, even before like my title fights or anything, you wouldn't think it'd be another day. I'd just be chilled, be like me and my dad, whoever's in my corner, just in the changing room, just be chilled, chatting away.
But I guess when you've been doing it since you were 5 years old, it got to the point where it did become a little bit more every day.
Yeah.
Do you think that kind of everyday aspect, you got bored of it?
Towards the end.
Yeah.
I think so. Not when I would say like at my peak. I loved it. Loved the performance. Loved like I say, the more I enjoyed it, the kind of the better I thought I felt anyway.
Yeah,
and it like, the more the crowd got behind me and people were cheering for me, it kind of spurred me on. But like the earlier fights, you don't get that because I was just so focused on the opponent.
I want to talk a little bit more about that focus on the opponent, because on one of the videos I watched, I told you this as well, you were really cheeky and like aggravating him a little bit, maybe smiling at him, trying to tease him. You were a bit cocky, weren't you? What was going on there?
It's just mind games. So like I could, my style was I was very counter hitting. So the more aggressive the opponent, like I'd love it because they'd just come on and they'd walk onto something, or I'd be easy to set them up, move around them, make them look silly. Like one person said like fighting me was like fighting smoke. It's just like,
that's a good compliment, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of my opponents were just, and I'd already gone. And when I was gone, I'd just make them aware that they look silly.
And where did that persona come from? That performance persona.
It was. I've always had the skill to be in and out, making people miss. Probably it first came like properly where I was like laughing, smiling. Like I'd do a thing where I'd like throw them on the floor, and while like they're on the back, like I'd kind of like walk over them and like lean over them, like yeah.
But where did that come from? Were you always like that as a kid?
No, as a kid I was shy as anything. Like I wouldn't talk to anyone. So and like as a kid, it took me a long time just to. So I was winning British champions, 8, 9 years old, fighting around the world, around the country at that time, and I wouldn't tell anyone. Like I'd hardly tell anyone at school or yeah, it was a.
So it was almost like in this one area you were really confident.
Yeah.
But in other areas you weren't so confident. You didn't transfer those skills over.
No.
Isn't that interesting? I wonder what that is.
Well, you're the expert, Tommy.
No, you're the expert. So if you had any advice for someone who in a work capacity is wanting that kind of success that you've achieved in terms of getting to the top, what would you say to them? Like, you've mentioned some tools today, like in terms of replaying the success over and over again, which helps with your belief systems, working with people who have already done it, being inspired and motivated by the people around you. Is there anything else that we're missing?
I think repetition and experience really help.
Like, so continuous training.
Yeah, continuous improvement.
What about opening yourself up to opportunities? How you said that they said, do you want to fight? And you were kind of like, yeah, I do. And then did you often open yourself up to as many opportunities as you could?
Well, in Muay Thai, yeah. I'd fight anyone. I was kind of at a time where not a lot of people would want to fight me because I didn't. So if they were at the top, I didn't offer enough for them to fight me, but I was like a danger to fight because I was so unpredictable. So a lot of opportunities kind of missed me at points. But I was always open to fight anyone. I was happy to fight anyone. And just going back to like where you said, where did the persona come from? I think that came from, I fought in this tournament. So there's 8 people in this tournament, and it was all top level fighters. And initially I wasn't in it. It was another guy in my gym called Imran Khan, who was the guy I always looked up to. So he was in the tournament. He got injured and bounced it around some gyms in the UK, and then I got put forward. So that was like my big opportunity. And yeah, I just kind of felt, because I was like young, one of the least experienced in it, I had to do something different to catch the eye. And in the tournament, I had to have 3 fights in one night.
Wow.
So that's tough in itself. And I guess most people didn't think I'd get past the first round. I won that fight pretty comfortably. But I think that first fight is where it kind of started. And it was on, it was my first, like, filmed for Sky TV. So it was on Sky Sports. So I was like, I'm going to let the audience,
Ah, okay. So it's like you were
playing up to the camera.
Yeah.
So, it's the first time I've had, big cameras pointed at me. All the fights are filmed, but it was always just some guy with a camcorder or.
And do you think that kind of like alter ego persona that came out helped you?
Yeah. I think it helped me defeat my opponent without having to do much. Like, I could get in the head. So I did it in that fight, and I got in his head, and I was like, this works, yeah. So I can beat him physically, and then I can also just get into his head. Like, say if someone takes their hardest punch and hits you, which he did, he clocked me with a good one, and I just stood there and just went, good one, and then smiled at him. And so what's he gonna think? It's like, I just hit him with my best shot, and he just smiled at me and nodded and said thank you, or what, and there were a few other, like, again, where I threw him on the floor, looked over him, and he must be thinking, like, I've tried my best, and he's still just here, just looking over me.
So the moments where you were hit hard, you almost played them off.
Yeah, and they hurt. Like,
yeah,
getting smacked in the jaw, full blast, it hurt. God, but again, it's like with the judges. So you have 3 judges who are watching the fight, and they give you a score after every round. And even if it like hurts as much as it could, if you just like smile, like kind of just go, judges will be like, didn't hurt him. So I won't score that as highly as I would if he punched me and I went down, or if he kicked my leg and I was like,
yeah.
Then they're like, oh, he's hurt.
So there is an element of faking it a bit.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I've enjoyed having you on the podcast. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time, energy. For our listeners, what are you doing now? What are you working towards now? What is in the pipeline for Tommi McCormick?
So now I am fully retired from Muay Thai. I got my teeth done, so spent a few quid out, not Turkey. I didn't get it from Turkey.
How much would you do a Muay Thai fight for now? How much would someone have to offer you? They'd have to obviously pay for your teeth.
Probably 10 grand. I'm cheap. But yeah, So fully retired. I'm a application engineering manager for a global engineering company, which I'm really enjoying. You know, it's my first time into management. Been there, but been a manager for like 6-7 months. Yeah, it's a new adventure. I went into that not so confident. I don't know if I can manage people, but you know, you're there every day. You're speaking to them. It's just that repetition, and you know, sometimes you have to just fake it until you make it, kind of thing. Pretend to be confident.
I feel like we need another conversation about your new job now, don't we?
I know, I want to do that.
No, people from all walks of life will want to know how you get promoted and how you get to kind of that managerial level and through that journey as well.
Yeah. I you know, being from a council estate, born and bred on a council estate, you always have that chip on your shoulder, and I'm not good enough. I didn't go to, you know, the best primary schools or the best high schools. And, you know, I'm not as smart as these people. And when I was at university, I wasn't the smartest there. So it's always kind of had this chip on my shoulder of being not
enough, not adequate enough. I totally hear you with that, because obviously
in the Muay Thai, I was like, I'm good enough. You know, no one can beat me. The only way they can beat me is if I'm not myself, not 100%. That was all squared away. But like academically and like working in, you know,
I totally feel the same with that. Academically, I was very strong growing up, but I obviously grew up in a council estate as well. But with the acting, I always felt like someone like me would never do well, because it was when I graduated for the middle class, and you know, you have to, unless you're working in waitressing jobs or working a lot to support your acting, people have got money behind them. And I never had money behind me to do it.
Yeah.
I was lucky I got a scholarship going to drama school, but it was the same thing. It was kind of like growing up on a council estate with little money, you always felt like you weren't worthy of what other people were worthy, or there was something wrong with you, or you were defected, or you weren't good enough, because you felt like that growing up. You did feel like you were at a loss. So I totally hear what you're saying there. That is 100% a different conversation for another time. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate it.
No problem.
And good luck with everything.
Thank you.